Hey MVPs, Rico Knows here. Going to talk to you guys about win totals for 2024. You guys know I'm doing every single team. Been going alphabetical by conference, so we're now in the SEC. If you want to see all the previous teams, go to the playlist. If you're on Patreon, you go to collections, look for win totals, 2024 futures bets, something to that effect. If you're on YouTube, click on the playlist on the homepage and go find the futures bets, okay? So now we're at LSU. You guys see it here. LSU regular season wins, 9.5 wins. That does not include the bowl game, 9.5 wins. If you go back to 2023, last year, they were 10-3. They won their bowl game. That means they only had 9 wins last year with a Heisman Trophy quarterback. Okay? They don't have a Heisman Trophy quarterback coming into this season, but last year, with a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, they managed to come under 9.5 wins. Right? So they opened up the season losing to Florida State. It's a tough loss. Then they go blow out Grambling State, beat Mississippi State, they blow them out, just edge out Arkansas, lose to Ole Miss in a shootout, and then they just outshoot everybody, right? They beat Missouri, beat Auburn, beat Army, get 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama, still don't get it done, beat Florida, Georgia State, Texas A&M, and Wisconsin in the bowl game. Now, the team they are is the team you saw in the bowl game. I want to make this very clear. LSU did not use the transfer portal this offseason and make themselves tremendously better. So any of the players that opted out of the bowl game are no longer on the team to begin with. So when people look at bowl game results, they're always like, oh, that's not the team. That's not who it is. Yeah, it is. That's exactly who they are. Okay? The team you saw just edge out a very average Wisconsin team, beating them by 4 points. That's LSU. And in this offseason, they didn't gain much. They didn't address any of their shortcomings for the most part. They talked about it. Brian Kelly went out into the public and was like, hey, listen, we're not going to outbid anybody. You're not going to get rich off NIL with us, blah, blah, blah. And he wasn't kidding. I guess he was upset that they weren't winning bidding wars. They're not ready to pay players like that. Not at LSU, apparently. And everybody thought in the spring they're going to come in and pay a bunch of players, and they didn't do it again. So let's go talk about their statistical leaders. If you look here, obviously Jaden Daniels is gone. Team's leading passer, rusher, touchdown scorer. He's everything. The man scored 50 touchdowns. Threw for 40, ran for 10. Who they do have is Grant Nussmeier, who might be one of the best backup quarterbacks, out sans Miller Moss from USC. But they're both very similar. Very good players, just not getting to start because there's some Heisman Trophy quarterback in front of you. So Grant Nussmeier showed out in the bowl game, looked great, and he looked good in the spring game, and I'll talk about that in a few. Ricky Collins is going to be the backup quarterback on this team. I promise. Okay, A.J. Swan just transferred in from Vanderbilt. He's supposed to be some guy with, experience. Everybody wants a backup quarterback with experience, Rico. Where's the experienced backup quarterback? That's not a thing in college football. That's a thing in the NFL. You can get a journeyman to be on your bench, and he'll be ready to play for you. And anytime the starter goes down, you can get an experienced backup. You don't get experienced backups in college football. You get young recruits with a ton of potential. And that's Ricky Collins. He looks like Jaden Daniels to me. He does. He looks good, man. 1 second here. Yeah, Ricky Collins in the spring game, I thought he played great. Thought he played better than A.J. Swan. That's a whole nother story. Team's leading rusher, gone. Logan Diggs, gone. Went to Ole Miss. Josh Williams is back, and he's the starting running back. He's the opposite of flashy. He's just not very flashy. He doesn't pop on tape. He's good. He's good enough, but he doesn't pop on tape. Noah Cain, finally gone. IMG bust. Penn State, the recruiting websites missed on him. They don't want you to know that. Caleb Jackson, sneaky good. It's intriguing. This is a young back. I think he's from Mississippi. Just young, and I'm not sure what to make of it. I think he's a pretty good player. He might have like a breakout year and no one knows about it. Sneaky good. Maybe even 500 yards rushing worthy. Maybe. It's possible, okay? John Emery Jr. He's in the transfer portal, former 5-star guy. Didn't work out. Trey Hawley. Anybody telling me he's not guilty of a crime, you don't understand. They dropped the attempted murder charges. He's still facing like 3 other felonies. So don't count on him at all. The rest of these guys don't really matter. Shout out to Trey Bradford. Does not belong at any college. He went to North Texas in the winter. He's back in the transfer portal. I don't think he's a student athlete. That's a criminal waiting to happen if I'm keeping it real. All right. Harold Perkins sometimes plays running back. That's how bad the depth chart is at running back. And I know a lot of LSU fans are going to be like, we got young guys. We're okay. If you're in the SEC and you're too deep as true freshmen, I don't want to hear about how you're okay. You're not. You're not okay when you lose all your leading rushers and your top guys, Josh Williams. It doesn't move me. Not in comparison to your competition. Now, one thing you won't see on here is their offensive line. It's pretty damn good. Offensive line looks good. Hurd obviously left for Tennessee. That's a 5-star lineman, but the rest of the guys are pretty good. I'll get to that on the depth chart. Receivers. You can't duplicate what they lost. They lose Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. These guys combined for 31 touchdowns. They combined for 2,700 yards and something like 157 receptions. Okay? That's not okay. You cannot replace that. It's not going to happen. Your top receiver is Kyron Lacy, and I want you guys to know, between Kyron Lacy and Chris Hilton Jr., I have not seen more drop passes. They drop passes all the time. They're worse than Xavier Worthy. They're worse than a lot of receivers I've seen, and they're blazing fast. They just drop them. They don't win 50-50 balls. These guys are not dependable. Coaches know it. They went out and got other receivers. They're not dependable to me. I'm not excited about them being your star wide receivers next season. Not at all. I already told you Josh Williams just decent but boring. Logan Diggs is gone. Aaron Anderson was at Alabama, transferred. He's a local kid. Transfers back to Louisiana at LSU, and you can see it here. They forced him the rock. They tried to give this guy the rock every play. 12 receptions. 59 yards. When you're averaging less than 5 yards a reception, stop giving me targets, bro. Let me get downfield a little bit. Stop throwing me these screens because you think I can get it going. You think I can take this slip screen and go. They're throwing you slips and bubbles, and you hope you can get somewhere, and he can't. Not impressed with this, okay? Kicker, Damian Ramos can't kick that well. Yes, he made 77 extra points. He can't kick over 50. He misses. It's not bad, but I wouldn't bank on it. Now, defensively, I'm going to go over them over here on the depth chart. But what I want to tell you is the defensive line, a lot of people say it's not good. I think it's in pretty good shape. I do. Linebackers lack a ton of speed. Harold Perkins Jr. is great, but he's only one man. There's a lot of other linebackers. They're so slow. And then their DBs leave a lot to be desired. I love Zy Alexander. This is the truth, right? The bee's knees right there. Southeastern Louisiana FCS transfer from last year. This guy can find the football. I like Zy Alexander a lot. I've been an advocate for him a ton of times. I actually made videos on him last year. But let me say something to you guys. When I look at LSU's defense, I see mental lapses all over the field. In the spring game, they're getting beat. Garrett Nussmeier never had an incomplete pass. And when you watch the plays, you can go to YouTube and watch it. The DBs are just bailing out, doing like 12, 15-yard drops, like cushions. 12, 15 yards all by themselves, leaving dudes wide open. You can't throw an incompletion. And then they're still getting beat over the top because of mental errors. They're learning a new defense. They hired new defensive coordinators. They hired new everything. They say they're going to redo everything. I think the players at LSU defensively are talented, but they're out there on the field thinking. They're not reacting. They're thinking, what are my cues? What are my reads? What is my responsibility on this play? And they don't know. And they're getting beat over the top. And when you see the my mic just went out. I'm so sorry, guys. Let me go back. Okay, I apologize. What I'm saying is when you watch the spring game and you watch LSU offense being explosive and scoring all these plays, you're going to say to yourself, well, that's not the starting defense. Because it wasn't. They're doing that to the second defense. But do you guys see that the starters in college football, it's not the NFL. In college, the starters are right here, these top 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Typically, the top 11. Look how many more guys get tackles in a season. Look how many more defenders actually see the field at some point. Do you see that? The amount of different people that will be on the defense at some point? That means all those guys you see getting beat deep in the spring game, they're going to actually be on the field. They're going to be in the 2 deep in the rotation because you rotate defensive linemen. You got to have at least 8 in the rotation. You rotate linebackers. You rotate defensive backs. This isn't the NFL. Your 2 deep matters. So when you see that offense beating the hell out of the second string defense, that should concern you because that second string defense will be on the field during conference play. They will. They're going to be on the field, and they're going to cost you some games. They're going to cost you first downs that lead to touchdowns. I'm not excited for LSU's defense. It was in the top, I don't think it was in the top 100. It was one of the worst, right? And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the offense scored so fast, so the defense has to get back on the field. They can't catch their breath. It's the Caleb Williams effect. I get that. But if you were in the top 100 or you weren't in the top 100 and you hire a new coach and you bring in different position coaches, but you don't bring in new talent, new players, how much are you going to improve? How much do you think of it's coaching? How much do you think it's coaching? I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to be top 50. You might improve 20 or 30 places, and that's a great improvement. Right? You might move like 20 or 30 places. I want you to think about Iowa's offense. Iowa fires their offensive coordinator, and they replaced him with a new coordinator. But it's still the same players. How much do you think they're going to improve in their offense? That's the way LSU's defense is the equivalent of Iowa's offense. Just inept, cannot get it done. And yes, I know there are NFL players on that defense. There always has been. Since the year 2000, LSU has been pumping out professionals on the offensive defensive side of the ball. But the team's success hasn't always been there. They will still fail even with talented players. That's the harsh reality of LSU and their schedule. All right. That being said, you go look at their depth chart. C.J. Daniels just came in from Liberty. I'm going to tell you C.J. Daniels was running with the 2s all spring. He's not even starting. They pencil him in here as a starter, and he might be a starter by the fall, but all spring long he was a backup. And that's because, I told you guys this. Go back and watch the wide receiver podcast. Go back and watch the wide receiver podcast on YouTube. I told you guys, C.J. Daniels is not him. Nope. I saw him play in that bowl game against Oregon, and he couldn't get separation. He couldn't get open. Yes, he runs great routes. Yes, he dominated Conference USA or whatever group of 5 teams he was playing against. But when it came push to shove, when it came down to playing against the elite in the Power 4, he didn't stick out to me. So his stats look great. His traits look great, but when you line up on the field, you're not that great. So he gets to LSU, and you think he's a big-name transfer. He's the guy, and he's not in the starting lineup. Xavier Thomas, he's a stud. Now, I think he's the star punt returner and kick returner. That's what I think he's for. But he's a stud little dude. Don't get it twisted. He's not bad. Mississippi State, 40 receptions last year, I think. Still, not a big play threat, not a big threat down the field. Then you got Kyron Lacey and Hilton. I told you guys they drop passes all the time. I know they get open. I know a lot of LSU fans are homers for them. They just drop passes all the time. Aaron Anderson, keep forcing the little guy the ball. I haven't been impressed with it. Sampson, he gets the ball a little bit. It's fine. And they got some other guys. They got some other younger guys. But for me, this is not an SEC wide receiver room that I would be excited about. Garrett Nussmeier can do some shit. He can get you the ball. But it's not an upgrade from last year. And they didn't win 9 games last year. Remember, Vegas has them at 9.5. They won 9 games last year in the regular season. Vegas has them at 9.5 this year. And they lost the Heisman Trophy winner and 2 first-round wide receivers. And now they got all these guys that just don't move me like that. Offensive line is good, right? Will Campbell, elite. Emory Jones, elite. Like, they got good players up front. Mason Taylor, love him. Moves the needle for me as a tight end. I love everything about Mason Taylor. Very good tight end. Mark Markaway. I haven't seen enough. Haven't seen enough to go and anoint these guys. I just haven't. I also know that they have lost tight ends in the transfer portal for the last 2 years now. Guys like Cole Taylor tearing it up at West Virginia. right? They have lost certain tight ends that they could really use right now, and they don't have them. And because Mason Taylor just came in and started over everybody, right? Like I said, A.J. Swan is not the backup quarterback, at least not in my eyes. I believe Ricky Collins is the backup. A.J. Swan should never see the field. Running backs, boring Josh Williams, but he's there. Caleb Johnson's very intriguing, and I haven't seen a lot of the other younger backs. I've seen their huddle tape, but I haven't seen them against this type of competition. So I think Caleb's interesting to me. Now we go to the defensive line. Very senior-laden. You see it all there, seniors. Paris Shand is going to be in the rotation. That's the Arizona kid he transferred in last year. I think he's great. But the talk of the town, oh, by the way, there's Sean Washington. He just showed up. If you don't remember, Sean Washington's the kid from Georgia who had to go JUCO, and now he's back. He's just a big body. He's intriguing because of his size. All these SEC teams keep recruiting these guys just because some website told them to. I just looked at a 4-star yesterday that's got an offer from USC, and I'm telling you, he's never going to see the field. Never going to see. He's 6'8", 220, 230, and he says he's got an 8-foot wingspan. He's 4 stars. And I went and watched the tape, and I said, yikes. I made a video about it on on TikTok, and he wrote me a DM and said, can you please take the video down? I'm getting negative comments. Can you please take it? Hey, man, don't be paying me to do your review if you don't want the truth. So I'm telling you the truth. Sean Washington does not move the meter for me. But he's a big body, and they want him in the rotation. Congrats. Here's the guy you got to talk about. Gabriel Relaford. Gabriel Relaford dominated the spring game. Now, he wasn't going against the starting tackles. Will Campbell, he didn't go up against Will Campbell or Emory Jones. I don't care who he went up against. He looked ready. That's a true freshman. Early enrollee, he looked ready to be in the rotation. And people weren't sure. Is he going to play tackle? Is he going to play end? He's got pass rushing skills. Let that man go. That's a problem right there. That's a future LSU star right there. Gabriel Relaford, so look out for him. The linebackers, one guy that's a liability in coverage is Greg Penn. Greg Penn's the middle linebacker. Literally runs in quicksand. Can't move his feet, bro. You thought quicksand was just in cartoons? Nah, it's right there. It's in real life on the field. Go look for number 30. Dude can't run sideline to sideline. Liability in coverage. Liability in coverage. I'm not excited about it. We'll see who else can get in there. But this was a prime opportunity for them to go out and hit the transfer portal. And all the yellow names are transfers or true freshmen, just so you guys are aware. They had an opportunity to go get these guys, and they didn't get it. I thought Jackson Howard left. Jackson Howard left. He went to, I believe, Minnesota. He's gone. They lost some depth. We'll talk about it on the next page. Secondary, Major Burns makes all the tackles, and that's great. But if your leading tackler is a safety, you're losing games. Okay. Jordan Gilbert coming in from, I believe, Texas A&M. He's a Louisiana kid coming back home. He's actually teammates with Austin Osbury. I believe they played in high school together. I'll get that right. But the point is some of these guys can play, but there's holes out here. They didn't get the answers. There's so many people to sign. They didn't sign the right ones. Not at all. So let's go look at the transfer portal. They got Jay Vire Suggs from Grand Valley State, Division II school. And they play in the GLIAC. The GLIAC is kind of like the SEC of Division II, the conference. And seeing another Grand Valley State kid go to the SEC is impressive. But when I went and looked at the tape, I did not see anything impressive from this man. Nope, just another big body they can have up rotating. These coaches need 300-pounders. They got him. Congrats. Same thing with Gio here, but at least Gio used to start. He started about 6 games last year at Wisconsin. This is a good get for Gio for LSU. This one is decent. He'll be in the rotation. CJ Daniels, I already talked about him. Jair Brown, a young stud who actually played while at Ohio State. He was getting a ton of playing time. He was in the rotation, very young. You see where it says here he's from Lakota West High School in Ohio? Not true. That was his senior year of high school. He transferred up to Ohio to go to Ohio State. For his senior year, he went to Lakota West. Before that, I think he was in Baton Rouge or New Orleans. He was in Louisiana for sure. So he was down south. I think he went to multiple high schools. But he's a Louisiana kid, so he's just coming back home. He's not in the starting lineup. Go figure. Austin Osbury, there it is, University Lab. So Jordan Gilbert and Osbury, former high school teammates, played together. Osbury coming over from Auburn, just a backup over there. I don't think he should be starting for you over here. A.J. Swan, like I said, bad transfer. You're young. You were playing at Vandy, but you came to LSU. Probably got paid. Should have stayed at Vandy. I don't see it here. Xavier Thomas going to be in the rotation, going to be playing. He and C.J. Daniels will get the ball. And then they're going to rely on Gilbert. Congrats. He's been playing for a couple years now at A&M. What'd they lose in the transfer portal? Just young players that didn't quite hit on the recruiting trail. Not all of them are bad. Like Ryan Yates can play really, he's a high recruit. Ryan Yates is a high recruit going to Cal. He was 4 stars when he signed at LSU. The minute he committed to Cal, they moved him down to 3 stars. They've been doing this shit lately, just knocking dudes down to 3 stars. Just because they want to do it. Everybody, all the 4 stars, when they're in the SEC, the minute they leave the SEC, 3 stars. 3 stars. All right, there's Jackson Howard. I told you he was gone. Denver Harris obviously left. Hurd's a big one. Diggs is a big one. Jaylen Brown, God, he's so fast. Speed demon going to Florida State. That guy, when I turn on his tape, he popped on tape for me. Whoa. He popped on tape, and they made him 3 stars. It's disgusting. Darian Chestnut didn't work out. Found out he can't play. Went back to Syracuse. It's a kid who was at Syracuse, all conference. Everybody was saying he's good. Got over to LSU and found out there's levels to this. I can't play at LSU. Trey Bradford, a cancer, a terrible person. Been kicked out of three schools multiple times. Can't make grades. Just everything about his huddle film turned me off. I was watching his huddle film, and he's just arguing with people, showing out, doing things. He's like his own thing. He's been a cancer the whole time. He played in 1 game last year, and then and he was a star. Played in the first game of the year, scored like a 50-yard touchdown, and then never played again. They don't even care. They didn't even care. If you go look at receiving stats, I think it was a screen pass. Trey Bradford, 1 catch, 55 yards. Oh, he didn't score. 1 catch, 55 yards against Florida State in the first game. And then they said, we don't care. You're out of here. Just not that guy. You don't ever want that guy around your team. Everybody else, I like Armani Goodwin. I'm glad he went back home to Alabama. It's a good kid. I like him. He's good for UAB. Quincy Wiggins going to be good for Colorado. I would hope he's in the rotation. No shame in not starting at tight end here at LSU. That's another tight end that departed. Connor Gilbreth didn't even belong at LSU. Should have never been there, and losing a running back. So losing a bunch of depth, no big starters or anything, but replacing NFL guys with just substandard people, it doesn't equate to the same results that you would have envisioned. So, looking at the 2024 schedule, remember, the books have them at 9.5 wins. In the first game of the season, they play USC. It's going to be in Vegas. So, it's going to be at the Raiders' new stadium in Vegas. So, it's a neutral site. Obviously, USC is going to travel well to Vegas, so it should feel like a home game for them. That doesn't really matter. What matters is it feels like a mirror match. It feels like both teams replacing Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks with good talented quarterbacks who aren't really dual threats, and then they have a good receiving core. They have a good team that can score points and do things, but their defenses are the big question marks. Who got the better defense? Who replaced the defensive players correctly, and who upgraded? What I can tell you is USC utilized the transfer portal a whole lot more, found a bunch of different players, got good coordinators coming in, good positions coaches. I think USC has a chance to win this game. But even if you think LSU is winning the game, go for it. Win. I believe they'll beat South Carolina on the road, but I don't think South Carolina is terrible. But sure, win, because South Carolina will have a freshman quarterback, right? So 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins. If they win every single game they're supposed to win, they'll be at 5 wins, and then they have 2 weeks to prepare for Ole Miss. I don't care how many weeks they have to prepare for Ole Miss. I don't have them beating Ole Miss. I don't. I think this is Ole Miss's year to be relevant, and LSU's not quite even on their level this year. Then you're at Arkansas. They should dominate Arkansas. At A&M, I think they're better than A&M. Maybe. Very similar in talent. We'll see what happens. I love A&M's new coaching staff. I love everything they're doing, but I have them winning this game. Okay? So once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins. Then they have 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama. I don't have them beating Alabama. I don't. So that's 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama. They're going to be at home, and I still think they lose to Alabama. I got them at 7 wins. 8, 9 wins. Going on the road in the swamp and beating Florida sounds like a daunting task. Should be able to do it. Beating Vanderbilt at home, should be able to do it. And then you have Oklahoma at the end of the season. If you beat Oklahoma, you go over 9 games. You're over 9.5 wins. The point I'm trying to make is they have to beat everyone including Oklahoma, to get to 10 wins. So the only teams they can lose to are Alabama and Ole Miss. I think they're going to drop a game somewhere. I think they're going to drop a game against Oklahoma, A&M, UCLA, USC. Those are 4 teams that are very comparable in talent, and even on the road at Florida. Like, somebody's going to beat them. And if any one of those teams pops up and beats them, they don't get to 9.5 wins. I think it's very realistic they don't get to 9.5 wins. Some teams can surprise them. You'll see. I just don't think LSU is going to be that dominant next year. With the Heisman Trophy winner, they won 9 games. They're supposed to magically get better without their Heisman Trophy winner, without their 2 first-round wide receivers. I don't see it. So I've got them on the chart. I'll show you guys the chart now. If you're looking at the locks, you see it here. We're on LSU, and I have it as a lock, and I put 3 units on it. I really think LSU wins 9 games max. And so I'm on the under for LSU. That's where I'm at. You can tail it, you can fade it, but I'm telling you right now, when at the end of the season, when we take this whole chart and we start comparing and seeing how many units we're up on all the win totals, I think we're going to be up something like 30 units. We're up an insane amount of units in the UFC. Somebody did the math. We're up 30 units on value bets alone. Look how many purples we have out here. We put 1 unit on most value bets. Yeah. We're going to be up big. So LSU, I'm on 3 units. You can do what you want to do, but that's where I'm at. LSU under 9.5 wins. Got them winning 9 games. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Good luck, y'all. Peace.